Hello, this is Mark Smith with Family Tree Counseling Associates, and I'm going to talk with you today about an interesting topic called marrying intelligently. And I love that phrase, and I got it from a blog called The Philosopher's Mail. Last week I responded to that blog entitled Why We End Up Marrying the Wrong People, with my blog and video entitled Why We Never Ever Ever End Up Marrying the Wrong People. I thought the blog from the UK was very well written, and I just wanted to sort of riff off of their excellent thoughts and writing to discuss, I think, a very important topic for married people, single people, for everybody, young people, old people, middle-aged people. So I'm going to pick up with point number 2. Last week I only covered 1 point. There's 9. And I'm going to try to cover, I think, 2 today. So the second reason the author says that they think we end up marrying the wrong people is we don't understand other people. So I'm gonna quote the writer and then riff off of them. This problem is compounded because other people are stuck at the same low level of self-knowledge as we are. However well-meaning they might be, they too are in no position to grasp, let alone inform us of what's wrong with them. This author suggested that a good move, a question for a first date is, can you tell me exactly the ways in which you're mad? And that you get the British, they say mad instead of crazy. We might say crazy. So I do enjoy this author. The vast majority of us are stuck at a very low level of self-knowledge. When asked that provocative question, so exactly in what ways are you crazy, we should be able to hold court for 5 or 6 hours, elaborating upon our many wounds, dysfunctions, addictions, eccentricities, quirks, oversensitivities, and neuroses. But we're like the emperor with no clothes. We strive from day one to prove to everybody important to us, and especially to attractive members of the opposite sex, that we're okay, we're normal, we're good enough, we're worthy of their love, of their respect, and of their acceptance. The author writes, naturally, in dating, we make a stab at trying to get to know people. We go and visit their families, perhaps the place they first went to school. We look at their photos, we meet their friends, and all this contributes to a sense that we've done our homework. But it's like a novice pilot assuming they can fly after sending a paper plane successfully around the room. In a wiser society, prospective partners would put each other through a detailed psychological questionnaire and send themselves off to be assessed at length by a team of psychologists. By 2100, 2100 the year, this would no longer sound like a joke. The mystery will be why it took humanity so long to get to this point. So my response is, wow. I've been saying this same thing for years, just using different words. I believe in 3 to 5 year courtships in midlife that should include 2.5 to 4.5 years of therapy. I myself am involved in a 6-year courtship that almost the whole time has been spent in therapy, and we're really not terribly close to the altar quite yet. With primitive, needy, abandonment-infested people, it just takes a little bit longer. So by the year 2100, none of us will sound like a joke. It'll sound normal. Going for the 3 premarital counseling sessions with the minister where you discuss the state of the toothpaste tube or the staying up of the toilet seat, that doesn't count. That's a joke. What I call recovery dating is having your eyes open, moving slow in relationships, including your new loved one early on in therapy, and you already know who they are early on in the process because you know what your childhood was and you study your dating history. Let's see, I've dated 6 people and 5 of them have been almost a carbon copy of my mother. I wonder if there's a pattern here. But people don't really look at that, and that's what we do in our assessment and feedback sessions, is we go into depth as to exactly who your dad was, who your mom was, who that first boyfriend or girlfriend was, and I gather everything I can. And it all fits together like a puzzle. And you'll see the patterns, and we write it all down on a whiteboard where you can look at it. A lot of times people nowadays take pictures of it with their camera and their phones. But you know who they are already because they're going to be the same person as your ex, as your exes, and as your dad or your mom or both, whoever hurts you the most. The author writes, we need to know the intimate functioning of the psyche of the person we're planning to marry. We need to know their attitudes on or their stance on authority, humiliation, introspection, sexual intimacy, projection, defensiveness, money, children, aging, fidelity, and hundreds of other subjects as well. This knowledge won't be available through just your standard dating chats. My response is many times I'll get a new couple in my office and they'll brag and say, when we're dating, we never fought once. Or they'll say, my mom and dad, I never saw them fight even once. As if this was some kind of proof of the genuineness of those unions. But that's insane. You have to see somebody at his or her very, very worst before you have any business committing to them for a lifetime. People that don't fight are stoned on enmeshment and stoned on the early phases of love, or they're both so conflict avoidant that they're just sticking their head in the ground and they're really not being authentic at all in their relationship. The writer says, the level of knowledge that we need for a marriage to work is higher than our society is prepared to countenance, recognize, and accommodate for. And therefore, our social practices around getting married are deeply wrong. I myself, I love weddings, and what's not to love? It's quite a show, and all it costs you is like a toaster or a coffee maker. It really doesn't set you back too much. The purity, the power, and the eternal staying power of love is worshipped in songs, in prayers, in talks by the minister, in the vows themselves. And there's lots of free food. And if you're lucky, there's some alcohol and a DJ who plays, the funky chicken and hokey pokey and all kinds of old songs you can dance to. But I believe that we out now lie to our young people And we don't tell them just what a difficult go that they're really going to have in a real life, long-term marriage. We let them believe in the innocence and the naivety of that day, that wedding day, where everything is wonderful and perfect. When a long-term marriage, anybody who's been married for very long, you know it's a lot more difficult than that. The third point the author makes is we're just used to being happy. We believe we seek happiness and love, but it's not actually quite that simple. What at times it seems we actually seek is familiarity, which may well complicate any plans that we might have for happiness. We recreate in adult relationships some of the feelings we knew in childhood. It was as children that we first came to know and understand what love meant, what love was. But unfortunately, the lessons we pick up may not have been very straightforward. The love we knew as children may have been intertwined with less pleasant other dynamics, like being controlled, being humiliated, being abandoned, never communicating, in short, suffering. As adults, we may then reject certain healthier candidates whom we encounter not because they are wrong, but precisely because they are too well balanced, or too mature, too understanding, too reliable. And this rightness feels very unfamiliar and alien, and even almost oppressive. We head instead to candidates whom our unconscious is drawn to, not because they will please us, but because they will frustrate us in similar ways that we are already used to being frustrated. So, my response, thank you, talented writer. Yet again, you've made my point for me better than I can make it for myself. If a young lady is raised by a controlling, critical parent, she absolutely, positively will be repelled by the overly nice, adoring fellow who always gives her everything she wants. And it's not because she's just familiar with it. It's because she has an itch that needs scratched. It is our unconscious that draws us to people we fall in love with. And yes, it is the pain and frustration that are the strongest pulls. This is the paradigm shift. This is the thing that really, for my marriage counseling clients, it really changes everything. To really have it ground into their mind and into their hearts that you are married to the right person, not the wrong person. They're so wrong that they in fact are right. Mother Nature brought you them and attracted you to them so that you could do work. Their job is to tear down your defenses and to force you to have a voice, set some boundaries, share some feelings, do some healthy stuff that you couldn't do when you were a helpless, powerless little child. So don't look at the dysfunction in your relationship as something that you have to rationally, exclusively, logically pick somebody who is nice. You know, if you're not wired that way, you'll be bored to tears with nice. You'll be out having an affair 5 years after the wedding because there's just not enough juice in that relationship. There's not enough attraction in that relationship. The author says we marry wrong people because the right ones feel wrong, undeserved, because we have no experience with emotional health, because we don't ultimately associate being loved with feeling satisfied. So my response was, my writer friend is so close and yet so far away from what is really true about the nature of love. Yes, we have very little experience with healthy entitlement and satisfying love because we've never had it. Therefore, Mother Nature enlists the help of a wrecking ball, of a Chinese water torture expert to knock down our defenses, so we are forced to take a long, serious, pained look under our hoods. Most of us don't pay attention to the warning lights flashing on the dashboard. That light that's just flashing, it just, in real life drives you crazy. We find a way in our emotional lives to just put a blind eye to whatever flashing warning signs are right in our face because we don't want to look there. So we ignore the blinking lights, and ultimately, in order to force ourselves to do the work, we have to break down altogether before we get busy even diagnosing the truth about who we are, about who our parents really were, and about who our spouse is. And that's what marriage counseling does. That's what marrying intelligently is all about. It is about taking the pain and sucking every bit of insight, every bit of knowledge of yourself and of the other from it, and thus being able to grow as a human being and grow as a marital partner. We're not going to grow unless we're made to grow. That's what I've noticed about the human condition. So the author is struggling with real life issues about marriage, and they're very wise, but they've missed the main point that your marriage is a gift, your relationship is a gift, and you love who you love. And you can, if both parties have the ability and the willingness to do the insightful work that you have an opportunity to do, then you really can build something so much better. It won't be blissful. It won't be like the immature love of a brand new relationship that we want to freeze in time. But it will be something that's workable and something that has far more windows of heaven than it has windows of hell. So date intelligently. I tell my middle-aged people who are single, get the people into therapy quickly, early on. We'll sit them there and we'll pull out a blank family tree and we'll find out who they are, where they came from, why they're interested in you. I had a fella come to group recently, and he's had a history of dating pretty dysfunctional, what I call dragon ladies, women who have abandonment issues and are punishing and controlling and critical and unteachable and scary. And now he's dating a real nice gal, and he was in group, and he said something. He said the word engagement, and the fellows in the group tell me that I eviscerated this fellow. I don't remember being quite that harsh with him, but they said I sliced him up and his guts, fell out on the floor, because I was saying, dude, are you kidding me? You know who she is? Just because you don't have evidence of who she is yet doesn't mean the both of you don't need to do some very intensive work before that word engagement ever comes up. It's too early in the process. So thanks for watching the video today, and If you haven't joined our YouTube channel, Family Tree Counseling, on YouTube, please do so. We're up to a little over 1,600. So it's growing fast, and I get an email almost daily from somebody, and Jerry does, and Andy does, people interested in the things that we're teaching. So also visit our website, familytreecounseling.com, and we have books there. I have 6 books. A great book on abandonment issues. If you have abandonment issues and jealousies and reactivity in your relationship, that book will help you a lot. And there's also books on shame and books on affair recovery. So visit our website. Also, I'm available to work via Skype. And I've got clients all over the country and all over the world. And if you're interested, just email me at familytreecounseling@juno.com. Thanks for watching. God bless.